Did you know some cars lose almost all of their value the second you drive them off the lot? And we're not just talking about cheap cars. Some luxury models that once cost over $70,000 are now worth less than a used Toyota Corolla. Shocking, right? That's because cars are one of the fastest depreciating things you can buy. And today, we're breaking down 11 cars that are basically worthless now and the ones you should definitely avoid buying. Trust me, some of these are going to surprise you big time. Stick around until the very end, because number one is a luxury car that once turned heads everywhere, but now you can barely give it away. The Chrysler Sebring. Let's start with a car that was everywhere in the mid-2000s, the Chrysler Sebring. This was Chrysler's attempt at making a stylish, affordable sedan and convertible. But here's the problem. The build quality was terrible. The interior looked cheap, the engines were underpowered, and the transmission issues were a nightmare. Today, you can find these for just a couple $1,000s, sometimes less. They've become so unwanted that most people don't even bother fixing them when something breaks. They just sell them for parts. The Dodge Dart. The Dodge Dart came out in 2013 with a ton of hype. Dodge wanted to re-enter the small car market, but it flopped hard. The car looked decent on the outside, but it had weak engines, clunky transmissions, and poor fuel economy compared to its competitors. To make things worse, Fiat Chrysler quietly killed it off just 3 years later. Now the resale value is in the basement. You can find 2015 models selling for less than $4,000. That's insane for a car that once started at $17,000. BMW 7 Series, early 2000s models. Okay, here's a shocker. BMW's flagship luxury sedan, the 7 Series, used to be one of the most prestigious cars you could buy. But those early 2000s models, they've aged terribly. Here's why. The technology was way ahead of its time, but it was unreliable. The iDrive system constantly failed, electronics glitched, and repairs are insanely expensive. Imagine paying $80,000 for one of these new, only to see it worth less than $5,000 today. People practically give them away because nobody wants the repair bills. The Fiat 500L. Not to be confused with the cute little Fiat 500, the 500L was Fiat's attempt at a bigger, family-friendly car. But it turned out to be one of the worst-rated cars in America. Poor reliability, constant transmission problems, and cheap interior parts made this car hated by owners. The resale value? Almost nothing. Some are going for under $3,000 today. If you're thinking of buying one, don't. The Cadillac CTS. This one hurts because the Cadillac CTS was actually pretty cool when it launched. It was meant to rival BMW and Mercedes, but the reality is it didn't hold up. The CTS had issues with timing chains, electrical failures, and overall poor reliability. And since Cadillac doesn't have the same strong resale value as German brands, the prices crashed. You can pick up a 10-year-old CTS for the price of a used Honda Civic with twice the mileage. But the catch? You'll probably spend more on repairs than what the car is worth. Volkswagen Passat 2000s models. The Passat used to be VW's bread and butter sedan, but those 2000s models were plagued with issues. Electrical failures, oil sludge problems, and weak automatic transmissions made them a nightmare to own. While the new Passat isn't terrible, the older ones are practically worthless. You'll see them selling for under $2,000, and even then, people hesitate. The Smart 2for2. At first, the Smart car looked like the future. Tiny, fuel-efficient, and easy to park anywhere. But here's the catch. It wasn't actually that fuel-efficient. It was unsafe compared to other cars, and it was painfully slow. On top of that, parts and repairs were surprisingly expensive for such a tiny car. Now, these cars are basically worthless. You can find them for around $1,000 in some places. Imagine buying a new car for $15,000 only to watch it drop to scrap value in less than 10 years. The Nissan Leaf.
the first generation. This one is wild. The Nissan Leaf was the first mass-market electric car. It seemed like the future back in 2011. But here's the problem. The early models had terrible battery life. Unlike Tesla, which built in cooling systems for their batteries, Nissan didn't. That means those batteries degraded super fast. Many first-gen Leafs can only drive 40 or 50 miles on a full charge now. So while it was a big deal at first, today they're basically worthless. You can literally buy one for under $3,000.
The Jaguar XJ, 2000s models. Luxury, style, and comfort. But behind the fancy badge, these cars were money pits. The early 2000s Jaguar XJs were notorious for electrical gremlins, suspension failures, and transmission issues. Once these cars fall out of warranty, the repair bills are enough to scare away almost anyone. That's why today, you can find them for dirt cheap. A car that once sold for $70,000 now sells for less than $5,000.
Mitsubishi Mirage. Here's a car that's still being sold new today, but good luck selling it used. The Mitsubishi Mirage is one of the cheapest cars you can buy brand new, but it also holds almost no resale value. Why? Because it's underpowered, noisy, and feels outdated. Even though it's fuel efficient, people don't want them. Used Mirages can drop below $5,000 just a few years after being bought new.
The Hummer H2. And finally, the most shocking one of all, the Hummer H2. Back in the early 2000s, this was the car for showing off. It was huge, flashy, and cost around $60,000 brand new. But today, the resale value has tanked. Why? Gas prices for one. The H2 gets around 10 miles per gallon. Yes, you heard that right, 10. And with rising fuel costs, nobody wants to drive one. On top of that, parts are expensive, and it's not exactly practical for daily use. So now, you can find H2s selling for less than the price of a used Toyota Prius. Crazy, right? So there you have it, 11 cars that have gone from being hyped up, stylish, or even futuristic to being almost worthless today. Which one of these surprised you the most? Was it the Hummer H2 or maybe the BMW 7 Series? Let me know in the comments. I want to see what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, check out my next video. You don't want to miss that one.